never imagined that a broken television could turn into the most unexpected, profound experience of my life. The afternoon light was falling through my kitchen curtains in that pale gold way it does in November, when the sky has already forgotten summer. I could smell the chamomile steeping in my cracked blue mug and hear the refrigerator humming its tired old hum against the wall. The TV had been dark for 3 days, and I had told myself it was nothing. But something unforgettable happened that Tuesday, and I have not been the same quiet woman since. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and write in the comments which city you are listening from. It means a great deal to us. I am 67 years old, and I have lived alone for 11 years now since David passed in his sleep one February morning with his reading glasses still on. Our house is small, a single story with a green door that sticks in humid weather, and my days follow a pattern I have never tried to break, because breaking it would mean admitting the pattern was built from grief. I wake at 6. Feed the stray cat that visits the porch, make tea, and sit in the same chair watching whatever flickers across the screen. The floorboards creak at the third step from the bedroom, and I know each one like a friend's voice. Last Tuesday the screen went black and the sound died mid-sentence during a cooking show I had been half watching. I sat there with my tea cooling and realized I had no idea who to call because David had always handled everything mechanical and I had let that muscle wither. I found a number on a yellow sticker near the breaker box, a local handyman service, and I dialed with a hand that surprised me by trembling. He arrived at 2:30 on a Wednesday, and the rain had just started to soften into mist. He was 59, maybe 60, a man built like someone who had carried heavy things for decades and learned to carry them gently. His hair was silver at the temples, and his jacket smelled faintly of cedar and rainwater. He carried his toolbox with both hands close to his chest as if it were something living. His eyes were hazel and steady, and when he said good afternoon, ma'am, his voice was the kind that makes a room feel larger. We shook hands, and his palm was warm and slightly rough, and he held on one beat longer than necessary. I noticed he had a small scar across his left eyebrow, and the way he looked around my living room was not curious but reverent, as if he understood what rooms hold when people leave them. He set his toolbox by the television, and the room changed immediately. I could hear his breathing, slow and even, and the small clicking of metal as he opened compartments. The smell of solder and warm plastic drifted toward me, and I found myself standing in the doorway of the living room watching him crouch. He did not ask me to leave, and I did not offer to. The house felt smaller with his shoulders filling the space near the entertainment center, and the radiator ticked behind us, like a second heartbeat. I went to the kitchen and boiled water though the kettle was already warm, and I washed a single spoon that was already clean. I straightened the salt shaker on the counter and wiped an invisible ring from the table. When I returned, he had the back panel off and his fingers moved with a patience I recognized because I had spent 11 years learning to be patient with silence. He worked for 40 minutes, and we did not speak until the rain thickened against the windows, and he sat back on his heels with a soft sigh. The neighborhood is quiet, he said, and I said yes, it has been for a long time. Then he asked if I had lived here through the big ice storm of 2008, and I told him yes. David and I lost power for 9 days, and we burned the bookshelf in the fireplace because it was all we had. He nodded slowly and said some things are meant to burn so something warmer can grow. I paused when I heard that because he was looking at a circuit board, but I knew he was not only talking about the board. He told me his wife had left him 6 years ago after 22 years, and he had moved back to this town from Phoenix because his mother was dying. His mother passed in April, and he had stayed because leaving felt like losing her twice. The recognition of loneliness meeting loneliness sat between us like a third person in the room. The rain would not stop, and I said the tea was ready if he wanted some, and he said he would like that very much. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where David used to read the newspaper with his glasses sliding down his nose. The mugs were mismatched, and the window showed the wet street in silver streaks, and time felt like honey, thick and slow and golden. He told me about his daughter in Portland who called every Sunday but always seemed to be in a hurry, and I told him about my son in Denver who sent birthday cards with $10 inside and nothing written. We did not offer pity, and we did not perform sadness. We simply spoke the way two people do when they have not been honest in years, and the honesty itself feels like a warm room after a cold walk. He mentioned that his wife used to hum while cooking, and he missed the humming more than the marriage. I told him David used to tap his fork twice before eating, and I still set 2 forks out sometimes, and only notice when the food is cold. We fell into a quiet then, not empty but full, both of us aware of something neither had named yet, sitting there with steam rising between us. He reached across the table, and his hand covered mine. Not grasping, not pulling, just resting there with the weight of a promise he had not made. His thumb moved once across my knuckles, and the sensation traveled through my chest like a bell ringing in a distant church. I did not pull away. I did not explain myself to myself. I let the warmth of his palm become the warmth of the entire room. My eyes stung, but no tears fell, and he simply held on for the length of one long breath, and then another. When he let go, he looked at me with a tenderness that was not romantic, but something older. The tenderness of 2 survivors lowering their flags. I understood in that instant what it means to be seen not as a widow or a customer or a lonely old woman, but as a person who has been here all along, breathing, waiting, real. He stood and said the television was working and he would check it once more before leaving. He turned it on, and a cooking show appeared, the same one that had been interrupted, and the host was folding egg whites with a wooden spoon. I watched him gather his tools, and I walked him to the door, and the rain had softened to a mist that hung in the air like a curtain. He said he could come back next week if I wanted him to check the gutters, and I said yes, next week would be fine. I watched his truck pull away, and the taillights disappeared around the corner, where the oak tree drops its leaves in October. I stood in the living room after the door closed, and the television hummed its repaired song, and the floorboard at the 3rd step creaked under my weight. The broken thing was fixed, but I knew, standing there in the gentle, ordinary light of evening, that something else in the house and in my chest had also been repaired without anyone asking for it. It is never too late to feel seen. Some of us spend decades believing our windows are too dusty for anyone to look through, and then one quiet afternoon a hand wipes the glass, and the whole world appears again, waiting exactly where we left it.